started yesterday. And I'm not even... I'm just barely at her third birthday. We celebrated your mother's third birthday. As I was thinking about the next steps in the timeline, I got to thinking just how fast it all happened. How fast within 4 months of her birth we had trouble. Within a while after she became 2, we had trouble. We had trouble from when she was 2 all the way to when she was 3, but I don't feel like I was down in Georgia for a year. But I know she turned 3. Then she moved up to West Virginia, and she lived there until she was 5. And in that time, I didn't want to stay in Georgia because I couldn't go up and see her. I didn't know what to do when they took my baby. I didn't even have my husband there. So we were both alone to try to figure this out. I don't even know what we were supposed to do. I guess Penny said they came around, try to give me some type of service plan or family reunification shizness, but I was broken. I was finished being their slave. He took my kid because I missed an appointment and I couldn't keep my house inspection ready. But yet, the kinds of families you leave intact, it's mind-boggling. I didn't deserve that. I got to thinking while I was writing my notes that for every little bad thing I am, or every bad thing I said and done, trauma's all wrapped around somebody thinking my house isn't clean enough. My utter inability. Yes, master. I clean the house now. Is it clean? Is it clean? Does that make me a good mommy? Me? It was such an affront. And then when I realized the reality of slavery, because that's the way we like it. Oh, so that was my bitterness. Anyway, I need to hurry up. I want to see how much I can get through this story before it speeds up, because see, when we get to Cooler's Dairy, when we get to that part of the story, my memories are muddled and the traumas are generalized. Generalized in, if I don't mention anything else, generalized in feelings that grow in your stomach when we would be being happy, we would be being playful together, watching the TV, and we'd hear that truck start rumbling down the road. We'd all have to jump up and try to clean something. We all didn't want to hear him yelling. We were all relieved when he went straight into the bathroom We try to, I don't know what we try to do, man. Sometimes clean, sometimes get happy to enjoy what we were doing before. Fights, blow-ups. But we're not on Cooler's Dairy Road yet. So, maybe I'll back up. I left him from Georgia in our little car, our Taurus. The Taurus is another story, and I got the Taurus before I moved to Georgia. But this was another Taurus. And while he was still training, I took it and I went up back home. A couple of days after I left to go back home, he had his friend drive up all the way up there, presumably to talk me back, presumably to get the car, because he needed transportation. We lived several miles out from base. I resented your grandpa because when I knew that the DSS situation was getting dangerous, out of hand, like I'm trying to comply and I feel we're in a losing situation. When I started to realize that, I asked him if we could move down the road. It was 10, 15 miles, I don't know, but to move to another county. So that when they transferred the case, we would have a fresh opportunity to be seen, a new service plan. That's it. Just that was my Hail Mary pass. Because I didn't feel like I was being resistant. I was just, I don't know what the hell I was, but it just wasn't impressive enough. He didn't want to do that. Maybe he just thought I should obey. I don't know what he thinks obeying should have looked like. Because even when they were sitting in our house interviewing me, he would be sitting there playing on the computer, mildly ignoring everything, as if he's not part of the family scenario. I think he tried to shift everything onto my shoulders and presume his innocence, presume my inability. Over the course of the ugly years, always when in my presence tell me how his friends all talk down and bad about me, but he's always defending me. These are those narcissistic traits that ate away at my self-confidence, that ate away at my trust in him, that grew my depression, which compounded all of my weaknesses at trusting myself to be a mother and a housewife. That was the abuse. But before it got there, he came to get the car. And my parents, who were also abusive, tried to grill him about his love for me or about all the bad things that have happened. They wouldn't let me take any of his money. They wouldn't let me hear any of his avowals. They wouldn't let me talk to him. They weren't very nice. And when he went to physically handle the car, I went out to the car because my wallet was in it. My sister decided to go out to the car and sit in it, so that if he drove off, he would get kidnapping charges. My mom got freaked out because he was in the car trying to start it. I don't think my sister got in the car finally, but my mom got freaked out, and she was holding on to the car when he started to pull away. And so she got knocked down, maybe dragged on the road a few feet or inches. He stopped the car. Did he take off with the car? Yeah, he didn't. He had the car. He took the car. We made a police report. I mean, he only had a weekend to be up there, but we made a police report. He turned the car and himself in on the next day. He now has a fine and a felony. No time. No presses of charges, no weird things. I don't know what the hell, why not? Maybe that was one of our minor miracles in life. But I had the car and he went back to Georgia. Over that 2 years' time, his career changed. He got out of the Army. I had a job or two. Eden Park was my first real job that I enjoyed very much. But at the moment, my mood is down and I don't feel like talking about it that much. I think Timmy went to Bosnia at that time, before he started getting out of the service. And when he got out of the service, he lived in his hometown. He lived in Walterboro even. That's where he went. I didn't get to visit your mother very much because she lived a 4-hour drive away from me. So I wasn't able to afford to visit her very much. I shared rent with my friend Larry. I got a kitten. And tempted to just live. Wasn't much ability to save money. I barely made enough money. I spent a lot of time working on myself. Self-improvement. Try to heal. I was a bit of a stress and a burden on my friend as well because of that internet addiction. Had a phone line from his mother's house to our house so that I can use the internet, and nobody could call through because back then the internet was also your phone. I was a little cheater when it comes to the addictions I like and a little liar. Anywho, next up, during that time that I had the Taurus, wow, it just happened so fast. I remember the tire fell off the Taurus when I lived on Center Avenue because I was taking my mom to work all the time. And then I got a Taurus in a settlement from Midas because my tire fell off. And with that, I bought another Taurus, which I had the Escort at Center Avenue. One year while I was working at Eden Park, what car was I driving while I... Memories, huh? Oh yeah. Tell our memories by what we were driving. But at any rate, while I was driving a Taurus, the engine blew, the transmission blew, and so the Taurus was kind of out of commission. And while that was out of commission, I bought a $350 grandma car. An old lady had a car. She was a school teacher, and she only drove the car on Sundays. So 1975 Cutlass Sierra. This was a tank. This car was a beast. And I used to drive it all the time. And whenever your dad came down to get me back, he paid for the repair on the transmission. So he would pay for the new transmission. So $700. So we got that Taurus fixed up. So now I had a Taurus and a Sierra, and he'd come down to woo me back. His friends drove him. Now he was either going to drive back with them, go back with them, or he was going to stay with me somehow, get me to come back. We had two cars. He managed, or I had two cars, managed to woo me down, and I tried pot for the first time. And we packed up the two cars. It was not quite spring. There were still icy roads, and I had to go to work. Of course, it wasn't even quite spring, because I used the excuse of coming down for New Year's to get off work, or to I told them that I was going to sit in a car lot and win a car again, just like I won the Taurus that the tire got fallen from. Oh. So now we had to take all the things we packed in the cars and whittle it down to one car. The only surviving car was my Taurus. So that's what we had. And in the Taurus was like a mattress or blankets of some kind that we made a little cubby hole in, and that's where our cat Camille stayed. She had herself a little cubby hole in the back seat of the car, and we drove. Well, what happened to the other Taurus and the wet roads, the wet icy roads? I decided to take a back road to work. I took a back road shortcut to work, and the next thing I know, I went head on with a tree. Hurt my eye too, and that car was totaled. Very unhappy about that. And so then we moved down to South Carolina. We stayed at Bubby Worley's house at Green Acres. Jimmy rode that Cutlass Sierra to work. He worked at Circle C. He was a mechanic, and he would help people on the highway. He would tow their cars to the truck stop, do on-site repairs. And he worked hard. And I enjoyed my time at Bubby's house. All except nobody really knew how to take me. I was quiet, liked to read. Or when I had something to say, I had been called encyclopedia breath a couple times. And this is why I have no friends. I'm not sure if that bothered Timmy, but then we made friends with Trick and Mandy, and that's when things started getting bad. Now, while we were at Bubby's house, your grandpa and I drove around the back roads, talked about a lot of things, talked about how we can get Athena back, what things we have to do in order to get set up to live life here, start over again. We rekindled, we rebonded, we were friends again, good friends, and we discussed making a baby. I wanted another baby. We had wanted to have our kids like every 2 years apart, maybe 3, but it was now 5 years. And any more was getting too distant to have children. So we started to make baby. We started to make your uncle. And we did. We haven't, around the same time that we were trying to make that happen, we got our own place. And we got that place set up. I must have been about 5-6 months pregnant by the time, because it was summertime, I got the house pretty and called DSS, asked them to come and give us an inspection, a safety, a notice that we have a suitable home. Okay? So they did that, and I took this letter with us to Georgia, where we demanded custody of our daughter back. And, well, that letter, which was my idea, which was our saving grace, so we got custody back. We went back to South Carolina, and we packed up, and we waited very anxiously for the facts to come with the paperwork of the court order to get our daughter back. And as soon as that thing barely got off the press, we were in a car and we were on the road to West Virginia. And on the way there, we talked about our plans for being a family, how our daughter will have to adjust, how we were going to parent, what was on our hearts. We talked about everything in preparation for welcoming our daughter to us. And when we got there, and we hadn't slept, and we hadn't eaten, we drove 12 straight hours to get our baby. Then my mother-in-law didn't even offer me so much as a drink, not even a cracker. She barely let me snag a piece of sleep on the couch. Well, she didn't want to give us our daughter back. She didn't believe the court order. She wanted to wait until the court opened so she could go to her lawyer, get him to approve this court order. Timmy and I tried to get a little sleep. We didn't eat. She came back home. Yeah, it was illegal paperwork. I don't know what words, if any words. I was hugging my daughter. He was packing up some of her clothes, and we were gone. We stopped at a restaurant. We ate. Came back home. Tried to make a home. Now, according to your mom, she didn't like the idea that I was pregnant with your brother, or with her brother. She resisted the fact that there wasn't a lot of time before all of a sudden there was a new baby that she was having to be a roommate with. So she has grew her own resentment. I think she forgets that a 5-year-old isn't that conscious. She may certainly resent having a brother in the house, may certainly resent having a brother, may certainly think that more attention was given to him. But I don't know. There was a lot of sibling rivalry between them, and there was a lot of abuse on her part to him. She took out her anger at me, not him. I took out my anger at the world, not her. See, I never tried to conform for your grandfather. I was never mad about not meeting his expectations. I was angry because the world was trying to force the shit on me. House cleaning. So where are we? Robbie's house. Now we're going to move to Albert Street. And while we lived on Albert Street, we had Chicken Mandy for our friends. I was addicted to the internet. We all smoked pot. Every week we visited their family, where they had kids similar to ours. But before we got you, I'll tell you about Chicken Mandy. Before we got you, or not you, but your mom back, he wanted to introduce me to his friend Trick, and how Mandy's an old-fashioned traditional Southern wife, and Trick's not going to want me to be so liberating and intellectual with her, so he was trying to give me some kind of warning. Don't introduce independence and free thinking, okay? So I'm like, okay, whatever. And we spent every single weekend at their house. Cookouts. I played with their kids. I was pregnant. This was before I got Cypher, this was before we got your mother, and after we got your mother. So over that time, I watched a lot of WrestleMania. It was the first time I realized, oh, that's just a man's soap opera. But it's almost embarrassing to say. Trick and Mandy had such ridiculous fights over, and his complaints were so utterly childish and ridiculous. I thought they were play fighting. It was like a cartoon. I would laugh because it was so ridiculous. You didn't buy me the soda I wanted. You don't love me. Get into a damn near knockdown brawl over you don't respect me because you didn't buy my soda. Don't you ever think about me? It was a real fight. That's abuse. That's entitlement. That was abuse, and I had never seen that before in my entire life. And she would just, clean the house, clean the house, clean the house, clean the house, fuck my husband, clean the house. She had no soul. Oh, but she had a backbiting little talking tongue, and she cheated on her husband all the time. And she hated me. And she made Timmy feel bad because I wasn't a good Southern wife who cooked and why doesn't she take care of the children the way I do? Why doesn't she decorate? 'Cause she don't feel loved, that's why. I don't feel loved at all. When I do feel loved, I want to do beautiful things, set up the castle on the stilts and make a beautiful scene. When I feel loved, I want to do that. But now when you're sitting around with your arms crossed talking about how terrible I am because I can't fucking keep a laundry done. I'm sorry, darling. I also built up resentment, didn't I? He chose a textbook abusive family to be the role model for what he wanted me to be. That's disgusting. That's disgusting. When I offered him godhood. Never mind. All I'm saying is that if a narcissist is going to have a shared fantasy, he shouldn't sell it for a little bit of manipulation of your friends. Bad pit demon. You've made me a god now. Petty pit demon. Because you found all... Oh, now I'm gestalting my ex-husband. Because he found people who would take his advice. Because he found situations every few months Trick and Mandy were breaking up. Every 2 months. Every June she literally left him to try to go out on her own. And Trick would be, oh, Timmy, you win your wife back all the time. How do I win my wife back? What does this lead me to believe? Was there at any time that he actually loved me? For me? Or was it all just manipulation games? White knighting. Not love. Running on the fantasy that I had when we were young and we were together. How could I tell anymore? I couldn't tell. All I know is that we enjoyed talking to each other about everything. We really got a lot of good talking together when we would ride truck together. It was good times, good talks. Maybe not so much about what hurts us or how to solve problems, but friendly, fun. Talking about our friends, talking about their problems and what they should do right and wrong, talking about predictions, talking about history. We talked about anything except how we needed each other's love. In fact, at one point when I'm at my weakest, my hurtest, after I had been cucked by him, when I was sick, and y'all decided to come on and help me have a threesome, when I could barely hold down food, and can barely participate. Yeah, that was pretty cruel of you. So I'd like you to stop whining to me about my cruelties to you, because that was pretty goddamn cruel. Or about the time that I got sick and I had a fever, But you guys were so used to hating me and thinking I was stupid, thinking I was worthless, thinking I was the problem. Like a slow poison, you guys ate away at my soul. I hope you enjoyed it. I was sick. I had a fever. I was sitting against you, gestalting my husband again. But I was sitting up near you, on my ex-husband. I was sitting near him, and I was having a fever. It was 104. I was burning up. I was delirious. I could not feel heat radiating from my body. I went into a fever dream that lasted 2 or 3 days. At one point during this fever dream, when I'm sick and throwing up and trying to get better in the tub, because I was also dehydrated, my daughter was my savior. She was getting me cups of water. She was getting me things that I needed to help me. And I remember her saying to her dad, "What's wrong with Mommy? She's sick. What's happening?" And he said, "Well, your mom just was trying to lose weight, and she's eating." Way to anchor a trauma that has led to a food addiction. Good job. That was my bitterness again. Anyway, I was having a fever dream. And I was having a lot of psychosis in it. I was having horrible fantasies, horrible things. Oh, maybe someday I'll tell you the story from the happy point of view when it was a mystical vision. But I'm telling trauma stories right now. It was still a mystical vision. But what else happened is my point. So, by the time I'd come out of this fever, I was starting to return to my sanity, but I was also very dehydrated, very weak, very ill. My brain was slipping back and forth, and I could not maintain a consciousness. And I said, "Listen, Tim, I have to go to the emergency room. I'm dehydrated." And I guess he said, "What do you want me to take you there?" "Yeah." "What, and sit there and wait for 4 hours while you get your IV?" "Yeah." "What about the kids? What am I supposed to do with them?" "You could take me there and come back home." "What, and wait around for you to call me back?" "Yeah. I'm sick. I can't even stand up well. I'm ill. I need to go to the emergency room. It was only 1.5 miles down the road." He made me drive myself. And I'm barely conscious. I'm dangerous. I'm a hazard on the road. He made me drive myself. So I don't want to hear you ever talk about your hardships anymore. You got your revenge, okay? You got your motherfucking revenge. Plus, you allowed your best friend to burn the writing I created. Because you didn't understand it. She's just crazy. She just didn't. She's absolutely worthless to me. That's what you did. That's what you did to me. I will never trust you. I deserve that because I didn't keep a clean house? Truly? Maybe you are that narcissistic bastard that we try to pretend you're not. Because your core human self is you got good things. Well, we got to Albert Street. I had a bad friend too. And she had DSS called on her because she did cocaine. And I didn't do cocaine. But guilt by association, somehow DSS got involved in our life while we were on Albert Street. So I had to get clean from pot. Well, Timmy doesn't do pot no more because he's good driving truck now. So, but hey, it was cool when we were doing it. "30 days after that, DSS case opened, closed, because I passed the drug test. I did their counseling. No problems. Huh? How fortunate. What a nice experience that was. Then, went on over to Cooler's Dairy. Out of the blue, some DSS happens. I got hit the pot again. That time, I wanted him to be in a cup, put it in the trash can, and I would use it. What he did was pee in a cup, put it on top of the cabinet where it could be found. Easily found. Expectedly found. So, again, he didn't do what I asked. We got caught fucking it up. Did he sabotage me? You'd think he wanted to. I don't know. I doubt it. But I do know that, again, I became the sole problem in the relationship. He was innocent of everything. He was a truck driver. He was innocent. It was my inability to wash a dish, do some laundry. How horrible of me. What the world's greatest sinner I am. Could not stop smoking. Otherwise, I would delve into my suicidal feelings. I wouldn't even be able to think and cope and try to care for the kids. The pot helped me forget my pain and focus love on them. When I was not high, I was irritated, negative, agitated, angry. Because I never learned. There was always something bamming on us. For me to ever work it out. And no. Oh, hell no. I sure as fuck aren't going to try to get help. Get help. Like that's ever worked for me. That's never worked. So, this is my AA story. Not open to be. I don't know what I meant there. Ridiculous Trick and Mandy stories. The fever story I told. Well, guess my notes were right. I wrote just enough notes to finish the story, more or less, somehow. I know there's other stories to be told, but feel like none of them are needing to be told. At this time, this was just the story of our marriage, the struggles in our marriage. The weakness of letting somebody else try to tell you what your marriage is supposed to be. The folly of trying to solve everybody else's problems and manipulate situations. You see, every time Trick took the how to woo your wife advice from Timmy, then his wife would come back and they would have a beautiful honeymoon phase. The problems, the expectations, the stress, the mental load, the lack of validation, the lack of love always resurfaced very quickly in their relationship. In our relationship, I don't know, lack of validation, lack of love, lack of... He thought he was doing me a favor by ignoring my sins. And I thought he was accepting me for who I was by not saying anything. He held that against me. I was always taken by surprise when he had his narcissistic rages. Because I thought we talked about the situation. I thought when I expressed myself, I was understood, and by being understood, I was accepted. But that's not the way it works with abuse. I used to write letters. I have the letters. Letters. Where I tried to explain the problems or the solutions or my feelings. And even though these letters were written by somebody who had self-hatred, they were also attempts at solving problems in the relationship, which he never did. Didn't read. Wouldn't stand for. I asked him once, didn't your mom ever want to have a family meeting and talk about how to do family stuff? No, because me and my dad, we would never stand for that. I'm not talking about ruling the world here. I'm talking about... I'm talking about something that must only be some psychotic fantasy that I have when I think I'm in love and things are equal. So we ended up getting divorced. Because I got tired of watching their kids while they kept repairing their marriage. Chick stayed with us for a while as well. Anyway. I forgot what I just said. Chick was a backstabber, liar, he hated me. So, when all your friends hate you, but you still want to be in your friends' lives, I guess the best thing you can do is just live a silent, miserable, separate life from the one that everybody hates, so that you don't gotta worry about her. Don't try to tell me you love me. Saying I love you is not the words I want to hear from you. It's not that I don't want you, not to say, but if you only knew how easy it would be to show me how you feel more than words. It's all you have to do to make it real. Then you wouldn't have to say that you love me, 'cause I'll already know. That kind of thing. So if you want to find out where my sins and shortcomings come, all you have to do is look at the results of people with narcissistic abuse. And when I learned these traits, I tried to teach my children to protect themselves from these traits. And I learned how to combat these traits. I learned how to do. I became a dark empath. But that knowledge does not actually help my children liberate themselves from those traits, or use those traits. Anyway, that's the point where we got divorced, and I moved on with my life a bit, started the process of healing. No more of that needs to be told. You know, the other part of the story that needs to be told is, well, it doesn't need to be told either, because basically it's already told on the blog, which is also negative. Smile! Life's what you make it, baby! Well, make smiles. Don't be afraid to face what you've done wrong. If you're a narcissist, don't be afraid to face what you've done wrong. I mean, you can change it. Anyway, my outlook on life is why I don't participate. Because I can't fix it. But I can tell you about it. You can choose to fix it. You can figure out how. I can tell you what's wrong. I can't make it better. I can understand. Alright. My brain has turned to mush. I am finished with this lecture. I'm probably finished with this series now that I told the story of Grandpa and me to the best of my ability. So, this visual is over, and I'm going to finish the screw tape letters starting tomorrow with you, for you. Good night. Sleep tight. I hope you get through. I know you'll get through. What? Think I'm talking to myself over here? Good night, darling.